Senate Committee on Science and Technology. We're going to get started promptly here. I think we've got our committee members. Is there any, for the good of the order, is there anybody here that knows someone who needs to be here that's not here that we need to wait on for 30 seconds or 3 minutes or 5 minutes? None of that? Okay, good. Well, we're going to convene the Senate Committee on Science and Technology. It's our organizational meeting. You can see the agenda here for members, very simple agenda, adoption, discussion of rules, and then we've got a presentation on unmanned aerial vehicles from our friends at Wing. They've got a big day tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be Wing Day at the Capitol. You'll see some more information put on your desks tomorrow. But I want to give them the opportunity as they're making commitments to our state and investments, and our good corporate citizens want to give them an opportunity to present to our committee some of what they do. So with that, if I could recognize Senator Payne for a brief invocation, we'll get started. Senator Payne.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for all your many blessings, each and every one. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to serve here and work here on behalf of 11 million Georgians, that we would serve their will and for their state and keep the state moving in a positive direction. Or we just ask you to give us clear eyes and minds of discernment as we go through the matters before us, and that with all things we will serve your will. For us in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that, I want to refer you guys to your rules. Have a look through these. They should be in your folders. Take a look through them if you would. I don't want to rush anybody through this. And as we do that, I would like to also recognize a new member of this committee, Senator Kenya Wicks. Senator Wicks, welcome.
Thank you.
And I won't have you introduce yourself. I'm sure you've done that plenty of times, but this is a committee that hears. We have a wide range of things we address, and appreciate you being a part of this. Senator Eccles is not able to be here today. He had another commitment that's going to carry him over. He may be here before the presentation's done, but he could not be with us. So with that, any thoughts, questions, any discussion about the amendment or the rules as proposed?
All right, make a motion when you are.
Okay. And again, one of the things here, we have our quorum is 3 members as a committee of 5. That seemed appropriate. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward, not out of the ordinary. And with that, the chair is in a position to accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the rules for the committee of Senate Committee on Science and Technology.
Okay. Senator Payne gives me a motion of do pass the rules. Do I have a second?
I second.
Have a second from Senator Islam. Any discussion? All those in favor of adopting the rules, signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Thank you for that. So with that, second and final item on our agenda today, we have a presentation from Wing. I know we've got I think we were wired here to take a look at this. Do you have control from where you are?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I'm going to recognize your mic to speak. If you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company and the presentation today.
Outstanding. Well, my name is Bailey Edwards. I work for Wing Aviation LLC. We're wholly owned subsidiary of Alphabet. And as the graphic on your screen suggests, we are a logistics company focusing on using drones to deliver packages. We are a global company. To date, we've made over 400,000 commercial deliveries to paying customers. The drone that you see, the aircraft that you see in this image, is custom built to deliver packages. It doesn't do other things. It's not a multi-purpose aircraft. I have a slide here that gives a little bit more of the details of the aircraft. And as may have been mentioned, tomorrow afternoon at 12:30, we've been given permission to operate a demonstration flight over at Liberty Plaza. So if you want to see this aircraft fly, all you got to do is cross the street around 12:30. We got a window between 12:30 and 1:30, and you can see this aircraft in action right here in Liberty Plaza. I got to tell you, I was excited when I was told we'd have that opportunity to demonstrate for you all. As a company, we've flown, like I said, hundreds of thousands of missions. Where we were able to rack up the most of those was in Australia. We started flying there in 2018, And it's because of the regulatory structure. The federal regulatory structure was a risk-based approach that allowed a small, lightweight aircraft to do a particular mission safely and reliably without consequence to the uninvolved public. And we've then been able to do more and more flights here in the United States, and that's really the objective as a U.S. company. We want to be able to serve people here in the United States and not only talk about what we can do overseas. That has been able because the Federal Aviation Administration and the United States Department of Transportation are our regulators. This is a federally regulated space. And in the last several years, they've been able to make the types of advancements that allow Wing to invest more heavily in our presence here in the United States. The aircraft itself, or sorry, the company itself, again. Sorry,
Real quick, before you jump into you have a PowerPoint presentation, not video today, correct?
This is a slide presentation. Some of this has animated slides, so that's why I'm presenting it this way.
Before you jump into this, I'll ask members of the committee, any questions about the company before we dive into this in detail? Anything of interest to you? Any members?
Okay.
I would ask this: these handouts are really nifty.
Yeah.
We did a photocopy of some materials to put on the desk of senators tomorrow. Do you have, by chance, 56 of these?
I think we have more. I don't exactly know how many more, but my team can make sure that we can get you what you need.
We'll put a little card on this, and that way we can put these on the desk of senators tomorrow, as opposed to a photocopy of a very small slide.
Yeah, that's the idea. Is we want to be able to share the information with folks. That's part of the reason we're here in the Capitol today, trying to make sure that we're out telling our story, letting people know what these drones are, how they operate, and again, importantly, tomorrow to be able to show folks
Sure.
what this aircraft is capable of and why it matters.
So before you dive into it, you may
Sure.
answer this in
Of course.
your presentation. From a regulatory perspective, what is your status in the states right now?
So we are a Part 135 air carrier. That means that we have been certified by the United States Department of Transportation and by the Federal Aviation Administration in order to carry goods in the United States for compensation and hire.
Okay.
The authority to fly safely comes from applications that we make to the Federal Aviation Administration about where we want to fly and how we want to fly and how we make sure that we're avoiding other aircraft,
Sure.
whether they have people on them or not. Importantly, the aircraft is designed to be lightweight, to be, it's made of styrofoam. In a moment, I've got a slide
Cool.
that shows a little bit of the architecture of the aircraft.
Awesome.
So the idea is that you have an 11.5-pound styrofoam drone that's more or less an easy and safe participant in the National Airspace System.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you continue your presentation.
Terrific, thank you. As I said, this is the heritage of the company. We're an alphabet company, wholly owned subsidiary. We are global. We have operated, as I mentioned a moment ago, in Australia for hundreds of thousands of flights for several years. We are a U.S. company owned and operated in the United States, and we have recently begun flights in downtown London, something we announced at the end of last year, partnership with Appian and the National Health Trust, flying between two hospitals in downtown London, just hundreds of meters away from Parliament Building in Big Ben. I have a video, it's about 5 minutes long on our YouTube site, and I like to ask people, see if you can spot Big Ben. And about a minute from the end of the video, it's kind of hard to miss. We are flying here in the United States. We rolled out last year in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. It's busy airspace, which may be making you wonder, why would you go there? Cooperative airspace, like the region here, is around a big airport where the FAA rules require that airplanes flying in that busy airspace have to broadcast who they are and where they're going, which for a drone operator, when you have the right antenna and the receiver on the back of your aircraft, ADS-B in, you can see those other aircraft and avoid them. So it's a critical part of our safety capabilities that we're able to fly in busy airspace. When we fly in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, of course, we talk to the other operators, right? We talk to the police departments. We talk to the hospitals that may be operating helicopter flights. We talk to the airports in the area. The good news about airports is they don't sneak up on you, right? So we know where they are. We know how to operate around them, and we know how to keep safety in mind. We have had the opportunity to operate globally. We are very interested in moving out more operations here in the United States. This speaks to a little bit of what we've done so far. We've developed the aircraft system. We've developed the flight automation software. We've developed the partnerships that we operate with on global brands, some of whom are highlighted here. Walmart and DoorDash are some familiar names that we've had a lot of experience with. And Appian is the healthcare logistics company that we operate with in the UK and in Dublin. The model is one where we are the logistics provider for these brands, and these brands maintain their relationship with their customers. Here's a little bit of kind of what we've got going on. Sometimes it's nice to go ahead and introduce ourselves to the communities that we operate in. As I mentioned, we have been flying in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Part of what we do when we go into a community is we go and introduce ourselves and tell people who we are, how we operate, and what we're doing there, so that when they see our drone flying along, it's they recognize it and they say, "Well, that's just a wing drone. That's nothing bothers me." This is a fun event that we did last year, delivering the coin for the coin toss for the Cotton Bowl. It was there in Dallas, Texas, the Dallas area. And again, it's part of our effort to introduce ourselves to the communities that we serve. You can see it's a very light, delicate delivery mechanism that allows the product to be delivered reliably and safely without risk of being jostled. I mentioned that we flew in Christiansburg, Virginia. During COVID, we had a partnership with a coffee shop because, as you can imagine, people weren't going out. So we were able to deliver muffins and goods from their coffee shop, including hot cups of coffee, delivered without spilling to people's homes. It was a great way of connecting the community during a tough time, but also demonstrating the commercial demand for delivery services that are done quickly, safely, and efficiently.
Intact cups of coffee.
Sorry?
Intact cups of coffee.
Intact cups of coffee. There's a YouTube site, www.youtube.com/wing, where you can go. We've done a lot of videos of what you can deliver safely. Sometimes we take the little package, we call it a hex tote. Had one made of clear plastic so that you can see the cup of coffee riding around inside, and when there's a little camera on a boom, custom fit for this kind of demo opportunity, and it films the coffee getting delivered down and set down gently. Another set of series that I like are the Will It Break? So we take that same clear plastic one, fill it up full of light bulbs, and then let it deliver and see if it breaks. I won't ruin the suspense. They don't break. But we look into areas. Where do we fly? I mentioned the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. What we're looking for is airspace that's depicted in this slide, where within that blue circle, that's called a Mode C veil, where the capabilities of our aircraft to see other airplanes is easy, and it makes it easy for us to fly safely in congested airspace and stay out of the way. All these little red dots are surface level restrictions. Again, we know where those airports are, and we just don't fly near them. So that way we're able to be good neighbors in the airspace that we fly in. As I mentioned before, we are a Part 135 air carrier, so that's the same level of certification that many helicopter air ambulance companies hold when they're flying patients to hospitals, charter aircraft operations. We needed this Part 135 certification so we could deliver goods for compensation. It's part of the regulatory structure that the U.S. government imposes through the U.S. DOT and from the FAA. The way we deploy is in the communities that we operate in. As I mentioned, we operate with Walmart and DoorDash. So at a mall location, we'll have what we call a nest. You can kind of see it in that middle picture where it's a fenced-in area with charge pads where the aircraft sit before they go off for a delivery. The folks in this room in our operations center in Coppell, Texas, are really overseeing the airspace rather than actually flying the drones. The aircraft itself is depicted here. As I said, it's about 11.5 pounds of styrofoam principally. Low cost, lightweight little servo motors for the propellers. We designed the propellers so that they're actually a little quieter than your standard propeller. And the aircraft itself is made of styrofoam, and it's not even covered with plastic. You don't need that. The flight automation software is kind of right there in the middle. That's kind of the brains of the aircraft. When the aircraft is over the nest, it flies in a vertical. Those are those hover motors that you see, kind of oriented up towards the 12 hover motors. And then when it's time to go ahead and go towards the customer's house, the forward propeller motors kick on, the hover motors turn off, and it flies like a conventional airplane at around 150, 175 feet in the air. So it's high enough that you can really barely hear it when you're a member of the uninvolved public, not participating in the operation. And the hover motors, you hear the hover motor, and you'll have a chance to hear that tomorrow. But a lot of times that's when you're in kind of a Walmart parking lot or in a commercial district where you're having stores and highway noise and the other things that are the like. Of course, when it's coming to your house, it's bringing you something. So the aircraft is on scene for about 30, 45 seconds, and then it's off and on its way. Speaking a little bit about the process, this depicts kind of a 6-pane view of kind of from order to planning the route, taking off, loading, getting to the customer's house, and then coming on back. The order, there's 2 ways you can order on DoorDash. We are app integrated, so you actually just order off of the DoorDash app, and you select drone delivery as your option for delivery. With Walmart, many of those stores are still operating on our marketplace app, but you opt in. So we don't just fly to your house without you saying you want us to come to your house. So you go to wing.com and you enter your address to see if you're in one of our service areas that's been turned on. And if you are, then we can map out and get, just using the geospatial data that's available, and look down and see what are the ideal places on your property. You really only need about the size of a picnic blanket in order to be able to have a spot. So if you can kind of outstretch your arms and spin and see the sky, then you're an eligible consumer if we're operating in your area. Every single time an order comes in, this pane 2 talks about an individual automated flight plan that's generated just for your order, real time. And it's a 4D trajectory reservation, I'll call it, because it's a place and time. And once that delivery is done, that's gone. And then the next one is to the next location. The aircraft takes off. It hovers at about 23 feet, where it lowers a little string with a little hook on it. We call it a pill. You see the loader in pane 4 there loading the aircraft. The aircraft senses that the package is on there, and it winches it back up to the airplane. 2 little pins hold what we call a hex tote in place. And then the aircraft goes in that vertical column up to about 150, 175 feet, so it can clear structures, trees, and the like. And then the 4 propellers go on. You see here the delivery is occurring, in this case, in someone's driveway. But as you go through and see it again, you'll notice that it lowers it quite gently down to the ground and then is able to unhook without any action to it. It's a passive unhook. And then the aircraft is happy to go home, go back to the charge pads, get charged up, and go on to the next delivery. So this is a little bit of what the customer experience looks like. Importantly, when your drone delivery is coming to you, you have a countdown clock, so you know when to go outside and pick up your package. There are a lot of benefits to the way this actually brings goods to people. It takes away some barriers. Importantly, like in this area, it reduces traffic. You got fewer people out on the roads. We're not going to replace the whole order of your groceries, but if that one onion or the element of the meal that you forgot, a barbecue sauce or something, you don't have to get in the car and go back out to the store, nor would you go in and put a full-size order for it. It's important to us that when we are flying into communities in the Dallas area that we're going and introducing ourselves. It's part of what we're doing here. We're basically just getting to know you, being a resource, answering questions. And that's a large part of what our team does. Going out in the community, introducing, bring the airplane, let them see it, and that's when you'll have the chance to see it tomorrow if you're available in that time. This slide speaks to some of the benefits of drone delivery. Again, it's obvious to see if you are unable to get out of the house and go pick up cough medicine for your child because you got to load the whole family in, or if you're unable to get out, the ability to have things brought to you in a safe and convenient manner is something that not just benefits the consumer who's using the service, but also the community that is benefiting from lower traffic congestion, fewer people out on the roads, higher safety. And there are a lot of capabilities beyond delivery that drones have to offer. But at Wing, again, we specialize in drone delivery. As I said, we go out in the communities that we serve. So these are the local events that we do so that when someone sees our airplane, they recognize it and they know who we are. We also do a lot of STEM outreach. I think a lot of people don't actually have a chance to be around airplanes very often. A lot of barriers to getting out onto an airfield and getting close to an airplane. So sometimes even being near a drone is kind of the first time that somebody has access. And as part of this, we believe heavily in investing in the future, making sure that youngsters or even people mid-career have an opportunity to come and understand what being part of this aviation culture can be all about. We have a lot of excitement ahead of us. As I said, we have a big year that we looked upon. Last year, we opened up 16 Walmart locations in the DFW area. We opened up 3 malls in the DFW area and then opened up 2 or 3 sites overseas. We're looking ahead to 2025 as a year of growth for Wing. Now that we've demonstrated that we can deliver on behalf of recognizable brands, of course, people who I answer to say, well, let's go do more of it, right? So part of that is getting out in the communities, getting to know folks, being a resource for those who could one day benefit from this capability. So that's a little bit of an overview of the company. I hope I've hit the wave tops of interest for you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. I have a number of questions. I will wait. What questions do we have from members of the committee? If you just, what's your number there? Push your button for me. Here we go.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. I just have I have a lot of questions, but I just want to limit mine. One, would your company expand partnerships outside of Walmart and DoorDash? That's one. And then you also said that it's cheaper. I'm just talking about like community engagement, because you do have in reference to the community engagement, you have, when you talk about like DoorDash, you have that person-to-person contact where the person actually goes to pick up the items and then takes it to the door, and then they have that driver that actually says, hey, thank you, I have your products, and gives it to the consumer. So I'm just trying to just want more feedback on how you have that person-to-person contact.
Right. So I'll take the first question first about partnerships. There's a lot of sky up there, and there's a lot of partners out there that we could work with. We have found that when you're able to work with an aggregator, you're able to get to scale a little better. That's where a partnership with DoorDash or other food service options makes a lot of sense. Walmart is a great partner in the fact that they have stores everywhere. I think the stat that I like the best is that 90% of Americans live within 10 miles of a Walmart. So if our range is around a 6-mile range, it opens up the door to a lot of folks. That said, partnerships team is not going to sleep with just 2 main partners. We're looking at healthcare verticals in order to be able to help address some of the needs. One of the benefits that's outlined in a report that Accenture put together a couple years ago speaks to the value of prescription drug delivery, and that's something that we're not certified to do yet, but I may be coming and knock on the door because those are state authorizations in order to make sure that we're connecting consumers with the prescription medicine. When you increase medication adherence by making delivery of prescription medicines easier, there's an overall healthcare effect of, I think it's $330 billion a year, was noted by that Accenture report. Now, you talked about the relationship with the consumer and the interaction with the consumer. This is an alternative to the driver-based delivery service. I think the driver-based delivery service is still going to be there. It's going to be an add-on capability that we add to what DoorDash is currently offered with their drivers. The other thing I'll tell you is that we're not always available, right? There are going to be times where there are wind limitations, right? Like any airplane that flies is going to have too much wind or weather limitations that don't allow it. So in those cases, the standard driver pickup would be the option for the consumer.
Thank you. What other questions do we have? Surely there are some. Well, I'll tell you what, let me ask some, and other folks may chime in if there's some things that are on their mind. Any members? Anybody?
I'll ask a question.
Chairman recognizes Vice Chair Payne. Yep.
Thank you for being here. This is kind of fascinating. I'm thinking, there's so much technology. I wish it was around when I was a kid. I'd probably gotten out of trouble with it. Of the cities you operate out of, what are the ones, say Fort Worth or Dallas, how many flights a day what's your heaviest?
It depends on the location, or depends on the demand. Dozens of flights are not unusual. When we were flying on Australia, it's on the record that we got up to 1,000 flights a day when we're flying on Australia. But we haven't hit those numbers in DFW yet.
And follow up on that, do you foresee a day where these things are just going to be everywhere in the sky?
It's going to be the point where you don't notice it. I think that's what we're looking for, is a moment where it's so quiet and so part of everyday life that it's nothing that you notice.
All right, thank you.
Good dodge there. Questions? No. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. I think you're right. It would be a new normal. I mean, people, the quiet enjoyment of your property with things whizzing overhead. We'll get there. We'll see. But what's a series of questions kind of came to mind as we talked through as I watched the presentation. What's the dollar break-even point? Like, where can you today? What dollar amount of delivery does it make sense to do this? Are you doing this for an add-on fee? Is a place like Walmart doing this? Is it burned into the price of a Walmart product that covers this as a no-cost ad? Is there a fee for service? How does talk me through the business model?
What I can say about the business model, understand that I'm not in the day-to-day business of the business. What I can say, though, is that our partner is our customer. So in this case, Walmart is our customer,
Yep.
and DoorDash is our customer. And the relationship between Walmart and their customers and DoorDash and their customers is how the pricing meets the customer.
Right.
So there's a differentiation about how we get compensated by the partner versus what the partner's customers pay them for the service, and that is something that we leave to the partner to decide.
So if I buy a $10 T-shirt from Walmart, like a Russell Athletic bright yellow workout shirt, and it's going to get delivered to my house, if I could pick it up at Walmart for $10, tax and all included, and I have it delivered to my house, is it $10 or is it $11, $12? How does all that work?
It depends on the partner and what their pricing scheme ends up being, and the partner decides that.
But as I interact with you today, am I entering their purchasing portal through Wing, or am I purchasing with them and then Wing becomes the modality to get it to me? How does that work?
It depends. So we are app integrated with DoorDash, and
Okay.
so you would go to the DoorDash app. Most of the stores that are operating with Walmart are not app integrated. So you go to our marketplace, and then we I can't remember exactly what the number is off the top of my head. I think it's either free or like $3.
Okay.
So it's a low amount in the marketplace app. But then when it's app integrated on Walmart will just determine what that pricing would be.
Okay. So many products I would go to Wing. Hey, I want to get a Wing order. I would go through Wing, and there would be a suite of products with the people with whom you're a partner, and say, I want to get a Chick-fil-A thing delivered to me, and it says your Chick-fil-A combo is $11. That's all included. Is that what? Would that be the DoorDash equivalent?
That's more the DoorDash model, right?
Yeah.
Where you would go to the DoorDash app and you see, okay, which ones are available by drone, and you tap the drone button and you can see the restaurants and their menu offerings.
Okay.
And it could be that what you order may not fit inside the box. It may be too big. So for instance, if you get a large Coke, or an extra large Coke or something like that, it's not going to fit in that box.
Yeah.
So it won't be eligible for a drone delivery. But if you were to get a Chick-fil-A sandwich, for instance, you get one of those or two of those even, they're small enough, they might be able to fit if that DoorDash is supporting a Chick-fil-A restaurant.
What's your max payload? That was my second question.
That's a great question. Yeah, so the aircraft that you see featured in this presentation carries about 2.6 pounds. And it's kind of tough to tell the scale in the presentation. That Hextote, it's about this big. So think of like a rotisserie chicken, right?
Okay.
That's about the size, shape, and weight of the
It's
payload.
on there. Gotcha. I see this now. Sure. What's your replacement cost for your units right now? If one of these goes down, you'll lose it. Something happens. Some kid vandalizes and it disappears. What do these things cost you?
We don't talk about what they cost because they're not really for sale.
Yeah.
It's part of our service about what we build. You can imagine, though, that we're trying to make sure we're building a reliable and safe aircraft, but not sinking a whole lot of money into each aircraft.
Okay. How do you guys think about have you or has an independent entity analyzed cost relative to the all-in cost of a DoorDash delivery, for example? And if DoorDash requires a driver at $20 an hour plus car and all that, the whole economics of that, what's the economics of this as it stands today? Are you able to share that?
I'm not, because I'm not the person who analyzes that, candidly. I'll say that our investor probably has done that math and feels good about where that ends up.
Could you walk us through the upload process? I mean, is this something that, to do if you're doing DoorDash, or you're a DoorDash analog, DoorDash isn't producing the Chick-fil-A sandwich, DoorDash isn't producing the Burger King Whopper combo. How does the link up with a Burger King work for you? If you have sort of a central nest that you're launching from.
So consider the nest being kind of where the aircraft lives. Sometimes there are restaurants nearby
Yeah.
that would run out with the box once it's
Okay.
been loaded, and then load it onto the aircraft.
Okay.
At one of our mall locations in DFW area, the restaurants that are inside the mall, their employee comes out and goes through the keypad and then goes into the nest, right?
Okay.
So that's more or less the way it's done as far as getting the product to the aircraft. And there is a connection of which package is being delivered to which aircraft that has that route given to it. So what's interesting is that the person inside the retail store doesn't know where that package is going.
Right.
They don't know who it's going to, and they don't really care.
Right.
It just needs the aircraft needs to know which home to bring it to.
Right, sure.
And that's all automated.
Sure. Well, I'm on a roll here. You talked about being able to hit a pretty tight spot. Is it tied to address only? Can you give it? Can you have a GPS ping that gives it an address and you can deliver it to the middle of the woods to a GPS location? How does that work?
So when you sign up, you go on the website and you put in your address to see whether or not your parcel
Yeah.
is in an eligible delivery area. And those delivery areas get turned on as we get approved to operate there, right? So that's the first step. And then once we have the parcel, then we're talking about delivery zones, and those are literally GPS points that are derived from the geospatial data.
So if I've got my phone with me and I'm geospatially tracked to my location, say I'm on a construction site.
Right.
Actually, let's say it's bigger than that. Let's say I'm on it's within the service area. And I'm at a bench in a park somewhere. Can I, from my location, can it deliver it to my bench in a 100-acre public park, or does it only go to specific addresses?
Candidly, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to. Generally, we do focus on residential deliveries to people's homes.
Yeah.
There are places like apartment complexes where you can't deliver to someone's house because there's so many people living there.
Right.
And so instead what we set up are called community delivery zones, so that in front of the parking lot, across the street maybe, there's a place where the drone would come. And that's where I was saying a moment ago, there was a slide that showed what the user interface looks like. There's a countdown clock, so you know when yours is coming, and you can go out and watch it and pick it up.
So if there's 2 or 3 coming in close proximity, there's people waiting there. You know, and they have their curlers in. They're walked out of their apartment to get their delivery. What's the interface to say this is your deal? Does it have a serial number? Do you have to? How do you? You know, me and Nathan are clamoring for the same bags. That's our Chick-fil-A. That's my Burger King sandwich. Is there a way to manage that sort of traffic at a specific site?
Candidly, I don't think we've encountered that.
Okay, cool. Chair recognizes Senator Wicks.
I do have a question for you though. Whatever happens, or if it gets stuck in a tree, or have you ever encountered that situation?
Right. So if we're unable to complete a delivery, the customer gets a refund through the retailer that they're working with, and we know where these aircraft are. We know where to find them, so we just go pick up our airplane.
Let me make my next 2 questions a little more serious. I mean, it's sort of whimsically, it's interesting just to unpack this because this is all completely novel. Thank you for your indulgence of us. What legal framework needs to be put in place? I mean, I know, is there if someone sees it flying over their property and they intercept it, something happens, is it a theft? Is it some kind of criminal mischief framework? What is it that protects your stuff? And do we have the framework in Georgia that we need?
The good news is that there is a framework in place, as I mentioned, as part of the regulatory constructs. As a Part 135 air carrier that's operating an aircraft, we are regulated by the Federal Aviation Administration and the United States Department of Transportation, and the aircraft are treated as aircraft. So if anybody were to interfere with the operation of the aircraft, there's already a legal framework at the federal level to protect our goods and our services from being interfered with. Those parallels to what the interference of a full-scale aircraft would look like. So there is not necessarily a need for further frameworks at the state level to protect against those outcomes. Of course, anybody does anything bad, laws of general applicability still apply, right? So if you damage something, there are probably state statutes that are already attached to that. But generally speaking, as far as interfering with the aircraft operation, it is treated as a Title 18 federal matter.
So from that perspective, from a vandalism, theft perspective, maybe I'll ask you I presume this is more than a $1,500 piece of equipment. So, from Georgia, the threshold will be a felony at $1,500. My guess is is from a theft perspective, we're talking about felony land in Georgia. Is that?
I can't answer to the degree of the crime as far as the value of the aircraft, but stealing things is bad, right? And we don't want you to steal our aircraft.
Because I know we passed a porch pirate law about 5 years ago that, historically, if mail is in a mailbox, the
Right.
mailbox sort of has this defined space. Theft from a mailbox was a 1 to 5 felony, whereas theft of a $10 item off of in your driveway is a misdemeanor. But the mailbox had this special status.
Right.
We passed a porch pirate status law about 5 or 6 years ago that said if it's on a porch, it's a delivery from a Amazon service, that the porch is kind of the new mailbox, and that we needed to create a kind of a framework in the theory of stream of commerce. It wasn't just stealing the item, it was broadcasting chaos and uncertainty in the whole stream of commerce. And that's why we made it a 1 to 5 felony. I wasn't sure if your deposit onto the ground is something you'd think about that needs to be thought about in that way.
It's a good question. One of the things that I'll point out is that when we do the analysis of a property, often some of the best places to make those deliveries is in a backyard where it's available. So therefore, you're taking away the temptation that somebody might have of approaching the front of someone's house. And another benefit of that is I work, my wife works. If my children are home alone and they bring home an A on a test, my daughter's 10. I don't want a stranger necessarily coming to the door. So if I can send her a little cup of ice cream in the backyard,
Right on.
that's a safe and reliable way of doing that to meet a practical need for 2 working parents.
Keep it out of the swimming pool, but otherwise it's a great idea.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for your answering my barrage of questions. Any further questions? While we're here, this is just kind of we don't have any official action for the committee. Anybody that's here in our committee hearing, staff, onlookers, any questions you have for our wing representative? Anybody? This is a great presentation. This is new stuff for us. We're just unpacking this for the first time, so I appreciate your indulgence of our questions.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Please come tomorrow, 12:30 out at Liberty Plaza. I don't know that you've ever seen a plane fly so close to the Capitol, but we're going to be looking forward to it tomorrow.
Well, appreciate your presentation. Any further questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. We stand adjourned.
Thank you.